A new kind of war is brewing, not with soldiers or tanks, but with batteries and steel. The battleground is the future of driving, and the two giants facing off are Europe and China. China is producing millions of electric vehicles, or EVs, that are stylish, packed with technology, and often much cheaper than their European counterparts. This has set off alarm bells across the European Union, creating a tension that is now impossible to ignore. European leaders are watching as shiny, affordable Chinese EVs arrive in their ports and fill their showrooms. The car industry provides millions of jobs and is a source of immense pride and economic strength for nations like Germany, France, and Italy. The fear is that if nothing is done, these jobs could disappear, and a century of automotive dominance could come to a sudden and painful end. Europe is telling China that the current situation is not sustainable. It is demanding a more level playing field. This high-stakes standoff is forcing governments, companies, and ordinary citizens to pick a side in a fight that will define the next generation of global trade. The world is watching to see who will blink first in this high-voltage confrontation between two economic superpowers. The heart of Europe's anxiety lies in one word: fairness. European officials believe that Chinese EV companies are not playing by the same rules. They argue that these companies receive huge amounts of financial support from the Chinese government. This support, known as state subsidies, allows them to develop and build cars at a much lower cost. They can then sell these cars in Europe for prices that European manufacturers simply cannot match. European car makers, who have to fund their own research and development, feel they are being pushed out of their own market by an unfair advantage. The market share of Chinese-made EVs in Europe has been climbing at an alarming rate. These cars are not just cheap, they are also very good. They come with advanced battery technology, impressive driving ranges, and sophisticated software that appeals to modern consumers. Europe is worried about becoming dependent on China for the critical components that power these vehicles, especially batteries and software. This reliance could leave Europe vulnerable to supply chain disruptions or political pressure from Beijing. The ultimate worry is a future where Europe's famed automotive industry becomes a shadow of its former self. Faced with this growing threat, Europe decided it could no longer stand by and watch. Its response has been a mix of aggressive tactics and delicate negotiations, all designed to force China's hand. The most powerful weapon in its arsenal has been tariffs. In October 2024, the European Union imposed heavy taxes on electric cars imported from China. The message was blunt: if you are going to sell cars here that are unfairly subsidized, you will have to pay a steep price for that privilege. The EU also floated other ideas to level the playing field. One major proposal was to establish a minimum price for Chinese EVs sold in Europe. The most controversial part of Europe's strategy is the unspoken ultimatum: share your technology or face a potential ban. European leaders know that China is ahead in key areas, particularly in battery technology and manufacturing efficiency. This multi-pronged approach, tariffs, price negotiations, and the implicit demand for technology transfer, represents a fundamental shift in Europe's relationship with China. The ultimatum has been delivered, and the ball is now in China's court to decide how it will respond to this unprecedented challenge. China's response to Europe's pressure has been strategic and multifaceted, showing that it has no intention of backing down. Instead of retreating from the European market, Chinese EV makers are digging in for the long haul. Their most visible strategy is to move production directly into Europe. By building factories on European soil, they can bypass the heavy import tariffs. The Chinese giant BYD is constructing a massive factory in Hungary, with plans to start building cars there as early as 2026. BYD, for example, is designing a new model called the Dolphin Surf, an electric station wagon created specifically for the European market. By producing cars in Hungary, a member of the EU, BYD's vehicles will be considered made in Europe. Other Chinese brands like Xpeng and Leapmotor are following similar paths, looking for European partners and production sites. In essence, China's car companies are responding to Europe's walls by building bridges. They are turning a threat into an opportunity, using the pressure from tariffs as a reason to accelerate their global expansion plans. While its companies were busy building factories in Europe, the Chinese government was not sitting idle. Beijing responded to the EU's tariffs with its own set of punitive measures, demonstrating that it was willing to fight fire with fire. China's retaliation was carefully targeted to inflict maximum political pain, while minimizing broader economic damage. Its first major move was to impose heavy tariffs on French cognac. China holds powerful leverage over global supply chains, and it has shown it is not afraid to use it. In 2025, President Xi Jinping's government reinstated export controls on rare earths. These are minerals that are absolutely essential for manufacturing high-tech components, including the powerful magnets used in electric motors for cars. The conflict escalated dramatically in the autumn of 2025. In a direct response to Dutch and US pressure, China banned the export of chips from Nexperia, a Chinese-owned but Netherlands-based semiconductor firm. This tit-for-tat escalation has pushed both sides further into a dangerous conflict, with the risk of severe economic damage growing with each move. The European Union's aggressive stance against China has not been universally popular among its own members. Germany is home to some of the world's biggest car companies, and its economy is heavily reliant on exports. For giants like Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz, China is not just a competitor, it's actually their single most important market. The fear within the German auto industry is that a trade war will provoke further retaliation from Beijing, putting billions in sales and profits at risk. The German Auto Industry Association, or VDA, has openly opposed the high tariffs, arguing that they'll do more harm than good. This split creates a major headache for policymakers in Brussels. France and some other southern European countries have pushed for a tougher line to protect their domestic manufacturers from cheap imports. It's really difficult for the European Commission to maintain a hardline policy when its most powerful member state is actively working against it. This internal disagreement weakens Europe's negotiating position and gives China an opportunity to exploit the divisions. This escalating conflict over electric cars is a high-stakes gamble where both Europe and China stand to lose a great deal. For European consumers, the most immediate risk is higher car prices. The tariffs imposed on Chinese EVs are designed to make them more expensive, reducing their competitive edge. But this also means that one of the main sources of affordable electric cars could be choked off. For the industries on both sides, the risks are immense. European car makers face a nightmare scenario. The recent chip ban from China in October 2025 showed just how vulnerable they are. A halt in production means lost revenue, idle factories, and furloughed workers. The conflict also threatens to stifle innovation and collaboration. Ultimately, the biggest risk is a complete breakdown of the global trading system. When we talk about tariffs and trade wars, it's easy to get lost in the big numbers and political strategies. But this conflict has real-world consequences for ordinary people in both Europe and China. For a family in Europe thinking about buying a new car, this dispute could mean their choices become more limited and more expensive. On the other side of the equation are the workers whose livelihoods depend on the auto industry. In Europe, a factory worker in Germany or Italy could be facing an uncertain future. If their company loses access to the Chinese market or cannot compete with subsidized imports, their job could be at risk. In China, the human cost is also significant. The booming EV industry has created millions of new jobs, offering opportunities to engineers, factory workers, and designers. The human cost is not just about jobs and prices, it's also about the lost opportunity to work together on the biggest challenge of our time. As we stand here in late 2025, the road ahead for the Europe-China relationship is shrouded in fog. The situation is incredibly volatile, and it could veer in several different directions. One possible path is further escalation. If negotiations fail, and both sides continue to dig in their heels, we could see a full-blown trade war. A second, more optimistic path involves de-escalation and compromise. The talks around a minimum pricing agreement show that there is still a desire for a negotiated settlement. In this scenario, both sides would pull back from the brink. Chinese companies would likely continue to build factories in Europe, becoming more integrated into the local economy. The outcome will likely be shaped by broader geopolitical events. Ultimately, this conflict is a defining moment for both Europe and China. The choices they make will not only determine the future of the car industry, but will also draw the map for the new global economic order.